Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Kovatz. I am the Executive Director of the Illinois Democratic County Chairs Association. Thank you for joining us for our next installment of our virtual training series. This one I think is really important because we're going to try and dispel a couple of myths here. When we think about digital ads, what we see on Facebook or well, it used to be on Twitter and some of the ads on other websites, we think that's something just for the national campaigns or the statewide campaigns, and that's not the case. We're seeing a lot more down ballot races are getting into doing digital ads so that we can reach the voters where they're at. And with everything going on right now with COVID, we figured it would be a good time to bring in somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to digital ads and digital marketing. And that's why we invited Barnabas Helmy to talk to us this evening. Before I turn it over to Barnabas, a couple of things that I do want to go over. We've got a lot of different people on the call this evening, a lot of different experience. We have some first-time candidates that I've seen jump on, some longtime elected officials who are running for higher office who are on. So there's a lot of different experience here tonight. We ask that everyone be respectful of each other. Everyone's going to be muted throughout the entire presentation. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat as we're going, and we'll ask them as we're going along, or we'll hold them to the end of the presentation. We'll ask them then. The training is going to last about an hour. So if you need to stand up, go get a glass of water, go to the restroom, make sure you take care of that. But while you're here, please be present during the presentation. And the last thing, especially given just the a lot of complicated issues with digital marketing, there's no stupid questions tonight. If you have questions, please get them in the chat box. We'll get them asked. We will be posting the video tonight to our social media, probably later tomorrow. So if you missed something and you want to go back for notes, you can either find it on our YouTube channel or email me, and I will get you any information that you might have missed. So with that, I'd like to introduce my friend Barnabas Helmy, who's going to be doing our presentation tonight. Barnabas is a veteran of the Senate Democrats for a while, handled a lot of their in-house campaign messaging, mail, and graphic design work. In 2010, he went off on his own and started his own company, Barnabas Helmy Design, and is doing graphic work, artist, web designer. He's the graphics person and web guy for the County Chairs Association, and does a great job for us, and that's why we wanted to invite him here. Along with all of his web graphics work and web design work, he's also an entrepreneur. In 2015, he launched his own tech startup called Smash Toast, where they've launched a product called Puck. And I don't know if we'll have time to get into it, but it's an interesting thing where anything that has infrared controlled devices can be controlled on a smartphone. But we'll get into that another time. With that, though, I will turn it over to Barnabas for tonight's presentation.
Thank you for the introduction, Dan, and thanks everyone for jumping on the call tonight. I'm a data junkie, and I can't understate the importance of using data to advance marketing. I started in the two-dimensional days where it was literally everything by hand, and in 2006 when I was working for the Senate president, and my job then for about a year was to input all of the precinct data by hand into Excel spreadsheets. And that's when I realized the importance of data. And about a year later, that's when Facebook launched campaigns on theirs. And I was on top of it from the beginning and seeing firsthand how powerful it is. But I don't think of data as a singular process. So that's one thing I really want to hammer home to folks is, it's not just a website visit. It's not just your website. It's not just an ad you send out, but it's all of those things working together. And the more you can get those things integrated, the better you're going to have, the better data you're going to have on being able to, analyze your audience. So don't think of it as just a singular process. It is a lot of individual elements. So, and Dan, if you wouldn't mind, if there is a question, I'm going to close my chat box so I can see my screen as well. So with that, we start with collecting data, collect, interpret, and then implement. In the collection side of it, and I will get technical, but I want everyone to understand how this all works. So there are things called Google Analytics, and I think we're all familiar with the concept of cookies, but I'll explain that in a little bit of detail. A cookie is a little bit of code that's embedded on a website. So for instance, Google Analytics, that's a tiny bit of code that you put on your website, and it lets Google know that someone visited it. And it will track that visitor across different websites. And every browser, every computer, everything has a unique ID, and they're able to, if you sign into Google or you sign into Facebook, you get an advertiser ID appended to your online profile so that they know where you go and bounce around. It's, one of those fun things about these folks. But there's Google Analytics is one way to do this. It's free, and I'll get into how you set that up. URL tagging is another thing. So when you launch a campaign and you want to send someone to your website, you'll often see in a link that you share with somebody, it says IDCCA.org /?, and then there's all this garbage behind it, right? There's lots of garbage. That's a URL tag, and that basically tells Google Analytics or Facebook or one of the other advertising companies that this person was given this, they saw this ad on Facebook, and I can tag it. So I can say they saw it on Facebook and it was sent from, a banner ad I did that was targeting people, and it was a yellow ad. I can put all that in that URL tag, and then it'll come back to the analytics. And then, getting your Facebook marketing set up with what's called a pixel. It's the same thing as a cookie, but Facebook calls it a pixel. And then form builders, so that you can send out emails. All right, collecting data. I put this in here because I'm also a very big privacy person, and it seems like Europe and especially here in the United States, we're starting to get a little bit more conscious of our privacy. And just so we can see, like, a lot of browsers are going to start telling us in the next few years where people, what cookies are on websites. So here I thought it'd be fun to just bring up Donald Trump's. I did this right before I put this together today, but it's it shows if you visit Donald Trump's website, all of these companies here are tracking you. And they're gonna, if you go there, they're gonna track to the next website you go to and the next website you go to until you log off or you close your browser. And then all of that information about you is sent back to every one of these companies. And then those companies get to sell it to other people, and they sell. So, and just being transparent, I think it's important for people, if you're going to, outsource your stuff to other companies. If, you hire a radio station or a TV station to do an ad, and they tell your web designer, put this on your website, all this stuff is showing up and they're getting that data. So just be conscious about who you're letting advertise for you and what they're putting on your website, in short. Because I think this is going to be a big deal to people coming up. Google Analytics. You can set up a free account for Google Analytics at analytics.google.com. Once you get that set up, there'll be a tracking ID. And if you're using WordPress or you have Square or a simple Squarespace or some other website, you can put this in there. Usually it'll just ask you for this tracking ID, and that will begin tracking visitors that come to your website. It's nice because you can set up custom reports, things that you can get an email every week that tells you about the traffic. And as you see from this graphic right here, it'll tell you where all the traffic's coming from and way more, right? But it gives you a good idea. And the whole point of it is to make your advertising more efficient, get a better bang for your buck. URL tagging, I was explaining that a little bit earlier. You can see, I don't know if you're able to look at my my mouse, but I'm going to draw here. This area here. That's the URL tag starting from the question mark. And then it says the source, Facebook. Okay, I wrote in Facebook. I told it, this is where I want it to go. There are websites where you can generate these, but it's nice to use because that way you can track your campaigns online and get those metrics as well. So, and how do I clear this? Give me just a sec here and I'll get back to where I was. All right. Facebook marketing setup. Facebook, if you've used it and you have a page for your campaign, they make it very easy for you to launch an ad. Promote this for $5 and you'll get X amount. It's a great service. It allows you to do that, but Facebook themselves has said in their conferences that they make it easy because it's like nicotine. They want to give you a big bang for your buck initially, and you will see great results, but they'll taper them, and it'll cost you more money in the long term. So I really recommend setting up a business Facebook account, business.facebook.com, and again, it's free, but you can control your data, and you'll be able to, if there's something going wrong, I always encourage people to reach out to Facebook and say, hey, this doesn't look right, and I'd like a refund for my money. Because if you can prove something like that, it's much easier than just doing a blind post or blind promotion from the front side. So,
hey, Barnabas, with the Facebook marketing and setting up as an account, we got some questions ahead of time of some down ballot races that are up this cycle, and they're trying to get set up, and it's a whole process. Do you know what that process is? Whether it's you have to have like your ID, copy of your candidate certificate, your statement of candidacy, what that is to verify that you're a candidate to be able to post ads? Yes.
So that is a great question. In your Facebook page, and if you are doing it from the business manager, either way, it's going to be a similar process. You will be asked if you're doing a political ad, whether or not it's a social issue. And you'll see down here, you will have to tag your ad as a social issue, elections or politics. This all started after the 2016 election because, it was a little wild and crazy then. So they've implemented some things to help. You do have to confirm your identity if you want to run an ad, a political ad. So to do that, in your Facebook page, there will be a roles editor, and I don't have the link handy right now, but there is a link in the Facebook page settings where you can confirm your identity. You'll have to upload a picture of either your passport, your driver's license, something of that nature. And then you'll have to set up a page disclaimer. Just be patient with this process because it's a pain in the butt, but it may take, 2 or 3 days to do. Just come back to it, but get it done now. If you don't, Facebook is limiting ads on the final week, I believe, Dan.
The final 4 days, you can't put up any new content.
So if you wait on this, and I always tell people, don't wait, get all of this stuff set up ASAP, because it you know, it's difficult by nature, but it pays off, because if you want to run an ad, then you still have to get the ad approved if it's one of these, because they do a little more you know, regulatory stuff to make sure it's nothing. I mean, they say.
And just to clarify too, the disclaimer, that's the paid for tag that we have to put, like if we were to run a TV spot, at the end of the TV spot, you know, paid for by the IDCCA, that's the disclaimer, right?
That's the disclaimer, and they will ask you in that, while you're setting up that disclaimer, are you a, you know, political action committee or something, and you'll have to put in your SEC number or FEC number, and prove that you are. So they'll link that up. But yeah, there is a process to make sure that you can actually run ads on there. Get that started now. You know, it's not as scary as it sounds. I'll walk you through it, but it does take some time. Email forms, I'm a big supporter of these things. I think they're great because they're a wonderful way to reach out to people that, you know, are a degree closer in contact, I feel like. You know, Dan and I both are pretty obsessed with grooming our lists and making sure that those are, you know, special people in our lives, right? You know, you don't want a bunch of people who aren't going to open the emails. So if you have this stuff on your website, you can have, you know, put up a sign up form on the front page, get people on there. There are a lot of robust form builders out there. A lot of, you know, you can add the MailChimp to say, I want yard signs, or I'm interested in volunteering to help. Take advantage of those. You know, some of them are like, I think MailChimp, I don't know if Constant Contact does, but MailChimp will let you start free. Again, free, you're giving your data. So I don't know what they do to it. They likely, you know, sell to third parties, but they let you start for free. They just put their MailChimp tag at the bottom of it. Very good way to keep in touch with those who are more committed to your campaign. What's also nice, if you have your Google Analytics set up, you can tie your emails to the Google Analytics and see who is visiting your website after they look at an email. If they, you know, click on something in your form, they can go over there and you can see how they're interacting with it. And again, this is a lot of technical heavy stuff in the beginning. We will get to the ad part, but I feel like this is so important to understand prior to launching your money, because it saves so much money in the long term, and you can do a lot for a little bit if you just plan it correctly. And then you want to interpret the data. I'm going to back up before I get to this and go back to the Facebook here, because A/B testing is a really, really, really big part of my advertising process. What A/B, if you're not familiar, what A/B testing is, in a nutshell, is, let's say we have two ads. They're the exact same ad visually. Then we're targeting that ad to the exact same audience, no difference. But on the text of the ad, we maybe change the headline, and then we send both of those out with equal money. And you know, I like to try and get 1,000 impressions. That's a statistically relevant number there to draw insights from it. That's like $5 in advertising. And then the next day you look at it and you're like, okay, well, this one performed much worse. And you will see dramatic differences in just like a period or an exclamation point, or, you know, a little bit of words. If you're willing to take a week, I recommend to tweak this every day. The next day, maybe change the image, run a couple images against each other, and then do that. You will see your advertising dollars, just, you know, the distance they will go is exponential. If you're willing to take the time to A/B test things. It takes a little bit of patience again, but that preparation will help you target. It'll help you drill down, and let's get to the interpret. Look for ways to save money. So You look for patterns here. You know, this website. It looked like people were visiting the website on, I believe from this one, it was a Thursday, every Thursday. And I think this is from a educational facility. So I think people were trying to get their homework done before the weekend or something. I remember it had some statistical relevance there in that area. Again, you can see where draw conclusions on what age group to target. Very good to do this. You just want to interpret the data and look for the patterns and see who you really want to target to get to your 50+1. Now the fun part, interpret it, and when you advertise on Facebook, you will get these metrics, and I'm going to go through each one of them because they're all very important. The results, it's a variable metric. So it could be link clicks, it could be conversions, it could be, views of a video. Depending on what your goal of the ad is, this can vary. The reach is how many individual people have seen your ad. Okay, it's like I may have seen it on an iPad and on my computer, but I individually am in that number. The frequency is how many times someone has seen that ad. So these people saw it 2.14 times on average. The impressions is how many times the ad has been seen overall. Okay, and most people point to this number, but it is important to think about, how many people overall are you reaching and how many times you've seen them. With political ads, I've always kept 5 to 7. You want someone to see an ad around 5 to 7 before it really sticks in their head. So just think about how many times you need to put an ad in front of someone before you think it's going to stick with them. The cost per 1,000 impressions. This is, okay, if I want my ad to be seen 1,000 times, it's going to cost me $6.37. Okay, that's what that means. That varies according to how well your campaign's doing. Clicks, if your goal is to get someone to click and go to your website, you need to keep that number in mind. The click-through rate is how many times the ad has been seen and clicked. Okay, 100 people saw the ad, 2 people clicked on it. And then the cost per click. Overall, how much does it cost you to get someone to click? And that's a very important number because that's going to adjust your budget. So in real world here, I'm going to show you, once you've gotten this far, and if you can get that legwork done, we're ready to launch an ad and actually make a difference. Okay. You've collected it, you've interpreted it, you know who you want to advertise to. So this is where you need the goals of your campaign. So in this first, I'm going to do 2 examples, and then I'll take some questions. But the first example, our goal is we want to show an ad to 35,000 people. How are we going to do that? Okay, well, 35,000 people times the frequency, 2.14, is approximately 75,000 impressions. We need the ad to be seen 75,000 times. Okay, so we're going to divide that by the cost by 1,000, which is the cost per 1,000 impressions, to get this number, 74.9. And we'll multiply that times our average cost per 1,000 impressions, which is $6.37, and it's going to cost us $477 to show our ad to 35,000 people. Okay, so if you understand that and you've done a little A/B testing, you can accurately predict how far your dollar is going to go. In this second example, it's a little bit more complicated. Here we want to sell 100 tickets at $100 a ticket. So we're going to assume that on our website is super slick and people don't get frustrated at clicking. Every click is something that drives people nuts and you'll lose them. So the better you can make the experience for the user, the quicker you can get them. Amazon is the gold standard. You just swipe and you bought it, right? If we could all do that, it'd be great. But let's assume that of the people that visit the website, 2% of them buy a ticket. So we want to sell 100 tickets. We're going to multiply that or divide it by 2%. And we need 5,000 people to visit the website if we're going to sell 100 tickets based on, you know, that number. So 5,000 site visits. Well, the click-through rate is 2.1%. We're going to divide that by that per click-through rate, and we need to have 233,000 impressions on Facebook. Okay, and Facebook goes on Facebook, Instagram, news ads, all over the website. So when I say Facebook, just imagine all the tentacles they have. But 233,000 seems like quite a few impressions. We're going to divide that by 1,000 so that we can multiply it times our cost per 1,000. So 234 times $6.37. It's going to cost us approximately $1,490 to sell $10,000 in tickets, right? That's what the data is telling us. Or if I want to double check my math, we can say 5,000 clicks, which is what we got up here in the site visits. We need 5,000 clicks times our cost per click, 30 cents, and it's coming to $1,500. So I just want to show you that with the advertising, if you get it set up properly, you can really make the dollar go, your advertising dollars go far. And with that, you know, I would love to take any questions and answer any questions that you might have.
So we remember, everyone, if you have any questions, please go ahead, put them in the chat box here. We'll get to them. We'll ask Barnabas some of this stuff here. I know we had some stuff come in ahead of time. If you're a county board candidate and you have maybe 10 precincts in your district, how easy is it or how hard is it to kind of micro target just within that area, especially if you live in a major or even a smaller urban area where you can hyper target? Is it, how can we do that? And then how much do we need to invest in doing ads on a smaller scale like that to make it useful for us as a candidate?
So you can target down to, Facebook is always changing their targeting, what they will allow you. It used to be everything. I mean, you could literally target somebody who had a Cadillac for 5 years and made this much money and was in this age group. But now it's a little bit more complicated. What you can do is target people who lean liberal, left of center. You can target specific interests they may have. So, if you want to say they are interested in volunteering or they're interested in a certain candidate, you can bring those things up if it's a population within Facebook. As far as like location, you can do down to the zip code, township, congressional district. It doesn't go local precincts or anything like that yet. But you can go down to a pretty specific area. I would say within a 5-mile point. Okay. And then if you add, you can exclude people. So if you want to say, I want to target everyone within the 25 to 35-year-old age group that leans liberal, they have to have both of those things in common, and they like to volunteer, so you could target them, or, you think that way. You can do combinations of data to drill down. And the better you can get your data, you don't want it to be too specific, but you want to get it to a point where you're just not targeting irrelevant people. And you will know if you're targeting irrelevant people by the comments you get on your Facebook ad. The people will let you know. So
here, another one that I've gotten a couple of times. Facebook, especially with them, they'll put on there, if you're running like a campaign page, boost this post for $5 or $10, as opposed to running an actual ad. Is there any advantage to boosting a post, or is that something, do we need to, just kind of stay away from that? Is it amplifying it to the wrong people?
So that's what I was earlier. It's a good question. So earlier I was referring to them like kind of giving the whole cigarette nicotine comparison. That was Facebook's actual, like what they said at a conference. So if you're doing that, promote it for $5. They give you the first time, go for it. Like put in $500 or something, and they'll give you a good bang for that buck. But the next time you go, your results will be slightly less and slightly less, and you have to spend more to get the better, right? So I mean, it's a little insidious, but it's what they do. So if you go to the business.facebook.com and set it up that way, you actually get to see the data and manipulate your ad according to the data. You have more
We're
control.
better off running it as a digital ad through the Facebook business one instead of doing it as a boost.
Correct. Yeah. And you have all the options from a boost. It's just times 10, you know, times 100. You have way more control if you take the time to do the business side. And it's not as daunting as my slideshow. I really covered all of the things that you need to do, and I believe I forwarded this on to Dan for distribution if you guys want to check it out. But you know, just plan a couple days to knock this out and get it set up, and it will pay dividends.
So I know we've talked a lot about Facebook, and I know that, you know, majority of us, you know, tonight after we finish up here, we're all going to be sitting on our phones looking at Facebook. But there's a lot of other opportunities out there, whether it's YouTube or Hulu or, you know, a lot of other stuff. What other things can we be doing as a campaign or as a candidate looking at reaching potential voters? Should we just focus where, you know, our money is best spent on doing it on Facebook, since that's the largest group? Or if we have a larger campaign, we have the money, should we look at YouTube or Hulu or, was it Pandora or any of these other streaming services?
You know, if you can glean from your data who your audience is, then the world is your oyster, right? And I'm showing you ways to get a lot of data, but I love guerrilla marketing, which is kind of, you know, going on Reddit, finding, you know, if you're familiar with Reddit, the Illinois subreddit, you know, if you want to get involved in the conversation, that's an influential subreddit. There are some people from all over the state that are in there talking and chatting. You know, those places work well to engage and kind of spread your message. It's more, but you can also do paid political advertising on there, and those other places. So yes, there are. I show you Facebook because it is by far and away the best for paid campaign stuff. And I speak from not just doing political campaigns, but also trying to sell my physical products, right? It works very well compared to the other services. But you can micro-target a lot of places. I do like Reddit. Twitter's never paid off a lot for me, but I haven't done them this cycle. So I can't speak to the change in their data, but yeah.
So, and if we have like a campaign page, you know, campaign Facebook page, how easy is the transition to, you know, going in and getting it set up as a business account? Does that affect anything with the campaign page itself, or is that just a separate process that we have to go through?
You just set it up, the business account separately, and then you administer the page, right? So that's how that works. You just have more control over the advertising side.
Okay. Now, as far as like content with the actual ads, is it better to do it as like graphics, or have you seen more success with videos? Like
videos far and away. Videos and
videos?
short videos. Like if you can say something in under 10 seconds, you're going to, you know, TikTok, if you can do a TikTok length video, that's going to be great, you know, because that's the attention span of people. So, you know, I'm trying to come up with thoughts for some other folks on this. And I'm just thinking like, you know, you can if you can say who you are and what you do, I don't think you need to worry about so much the videography right now, because everyone is in COVID lockdown, right? So doing a short video, it would be the best, in my opinion.
Okay. And and you've seen I do like a, like just go to, like our page or anything like that, just generic stuff that we get more bang for it if we do it as a video and link back to a site or something like that.
Yeah, as I said in there, like really know your goals so once you look at the data and everything, instead of I just want to put an ad out to like my page or something, really, to the best of your ability, figure out what it is you want to accomplish with the ad. And if it's just views or likes, that's great, because getting likes is helpful because it starts showing up on other people's page. So it's a good like initial traction. But a lot of times you want to make impressions if it's a video, so that you can specifically set up your ad campaign for views if it's a video, and it will just send it out in as many places as it can for views. And that includes Instagram stories, Instagram feed, video, like the same with Facebook stories, feeds, all that stuff. I think there's like now the 25 different audience networks that it goes to. So the videos are great. There are so many different little fun advertising things you can do and creative things you can do within Facebook. So I encourage you to check it out. You're not going to break anything. They have creative templates, and those are fun. You can just take a picture of yourself and it'll move it around and shift your words around. And they try to make it on the business side pretty robust for you. They've got Facebook Studio too, and you can get lost in it. But a short little video is a good way to start.
Okay. We're going to start wrapping up here. So again, if anybody has any questions, please get them in the chat, and that way we can get them asked before we wrap up. I'm going to ask you to put on your former staffer and messaging hat for a second, though, Barnabas. With doing ads, if we're doing a video ad like you'd suggested, that makes the most sense. Do we want to do an ad that is going to be entirely focused like on a positive message or contrast type messaging, or are we seeing if we come out with an ad that's a negative hit on our opponents or the Republicans? What do you think is messaging wise is going to be the best for candidates to be doing?
I think I tend to stay away from the messaging side of things. So, but you put me on the spot here, but I encourage, I've seen so much of the negativity and everything else that I'm like, if you can, introduce yourself. This is who I am. I'm a human. I'm in a COVID situation. This situation sucks for everyone. I'm a human, it's just, you can get that humanity across to people and vote. This is not a joke. It's like we're not trying to vote for the Messiah here. That's not what the Democratic Party is about, right? We need leaders that are going to work together. So, I can't really speak to the exact message you get across, but I think humanization of a candidate does wonders for people.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you joining us, Barnabas, tonight, and thank you everyone for being on the call tonight. As Barnabas said, we do have the presentation. We will be posting the video on our YouTube channel probably sometime tomorrow, and we'll send out a follow-up info with the slide deck for it. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all the good social media stuff. Like Barnabas was talking, we've got a good following there, so please stay up to date with us. And with that, everyone, have a good evening.
All right, thank you very much. Take care.